Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening, everyone.
Hello, Prof. Good evening, Prof.
Good evening. Hi. How is everyone? Okay?
Alhamdulillah.
Good, good.
Alhamdulillah, bro. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, good. Good. Okay. So let's get going. So we are now in week 11. And so tonight, as I mentioned last week, we will have our in vivo tutorial. Okay, so was everyone able to download the trial version of the software for those who are planning or interested in trying it out? Did anybody have any problems?
Yes.
No one had problems. That's good. Oh, that's good. Okay, so the plan is going to be, let me just first quickly put up Pucha Blast, although I don't think there's really much to show on Pucha Blast. And in fact, no, I won't do that. I won't put up Pucha Blast. There's really nothing to show on there. You guys can check it out for yourselves. Although I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have a date yet for the final exam. I'm still working on getting that. So once I get that, I'll let you know. Okay. But no date yet. All right. So just hold tight. And I know I owe you two of those short assignments. I owe you your grades, your marks for those. And I will hopefully get those by next week. I've had a rush of assignments due over the past few weeks with my undergraduate courses and then this course as well. So I'm just a little bit behind on the on marking the assignments. So I apologize for that, but hopefully by next week I will get those to you. But they're only 5-point assignments anyway. I mean, they're very small, and I'm sure most of you will get close to full marks, if not full marks. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. Okay. So just to remind you, to remind everyone, the goal tonight is to walk you through the sort of basic functions of in vivo. In vivo is now getting quite sophisticated in terms of its functionality. It started off as a very straightforward, simple software, and it's over the years it's really evolved, and now it's quite it's got a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of things you can do now in vivo, and there's really no way to cover all of it in one class. There's no way. Even when I do a one-day workshop, we still really only cover the basics. So, but at least to give you a basic understanding of how it works, the interface, and then the basic functions that we'll use for a PhD analysis. A lot of the functions now in vivo are actually designed for team-based studies, really big studies, even mixed methods. You can do some mixed methods work in vivo now. So there's a lot of functions. And so, for a single PhD student, you're mostly just use more or less the basic functions. So I think as long as you have a working knowledge of those basic functions, you can at least get started. And then after that, it's a lot of trial and error. You can go online and there's a lot of tutorials to learn how to do specific things in vivo. So, but as long as you have a basic working knowledge of it, you can get started at least. And so that's the goal tonight, I think, to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll share my screen here. Okay, so.
Prof?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I forgot to ask, is there any questions? Yeah.
Sorry, Prof. Maizura here. Prof, just one question. I don't know if this is relevant or not. Between in vivo and Atlas TI,
yeah,
which one do you think the best for qualitative research?
I have not used Atlas TI in a long time. So when I learned it, I learned an older version of it. So I can't really answer that question honestly, because I'm not that familiar with the latest version of the software. I've gotten mixed feedback. Some say that it's easier. Atlas TI is easier to use than in vivo. It's more user friendly. I've heard that from students. Others say no, they prefer in vivo. So it's really a personal preference. And in fact, I'm actually using, I'm trying to get into more of, there's another software called MaxQDA, which I really like. And I've been using that a little bit recently. And I'm planning on using that more actually in the future. There's certain things about it that I like better than in Vivo, especially the interface, the way they've designed the interface. So it's really a personal preference. I don't think in terms of function, like, like I sort of tried to show last week, you can even analyze qualitative data using Microsoft Word, and sort of a manual approach, just using basic software, like Microsoft Word, you can do it. So I don't think there's a real answer to that question, Maizora. It's really a personal preference. You just have to sort of try, try the different ones and just which one feels, because look, qualitative research, it's not going to analyze your data for you. It is an assortment of tools, and so what you do with it is really how you go about analyzing. So for example, when you're going through your data and you see certain things and there's certain things you want to do, does the software make it easy for you to do those things? So for example, like, you come across some text and you want to code it, and then, oh, you know what? I find that this is similar to the previous transcript that I coded. Well, how can I compare them, right? And so then you're going to look for the function in the software that allows you to do like a comparison or something like that. So that's the way you use software in qualitative research. So whatever facilitates that, I know that's a really long answer to a very simple question. My experience is that it really depends on the
Which
user.
is the cheapest, Prof?
I know MaxQDA is only, I checked the price the other day. MaxQDA is about 500. I mean, a full license, a full individual license is a 570 or 580, and Vivo is 690. I think in Vivo is probably the most expensive, and I think Atlas TI is cheaper, but I don't know how much Atlas TI is. You can just go on the website and check. It's not hard to do that.
Okay.
And then they have,
Prof.
but they also have student licenses. I know student licenses are considerably cheaper, because usually the student license, the software is only good for a certain amount of time, like 12 months or maybe 2 years or something. And then it sort of like expires, so you can't use it after that. So they do have most of them have student licenses that you can get also. So you save it, you save that for when you're ready to really start your data collection. And then you just use it for a year or, maybe 2 years, and then you can finish your project in that time. All right, so yeah. Okay, so in the chat box, if you check there, somebody, Nina, helped us. So for students, 400 plus for 2 years. Yeah, and Vivo also has a student license, and I think it's about 200 for 1 year or something. So it's about the same, maybe something like that.
Okay, Prof, thank you.
Sure. Any other question? I mean, Maizora, they have, that's why, like tonight, I asked you to download the free trial version. They have free trial versions, they all do. They all have those. So you can go and you can literally try and just play around with them and see which one you like better. And they have a lot of simple tutorials you can just follow just to get started, So if you look at NVivo's the project management screen, so when you open the software, this is the screen that will appear. Yours may look a little different because you might not have recent projects on the left here. This is my personal version, so I have some account information here and stuff. But they do, like, even here in the help in the in this on this screen, they have initial tutorials videos where you can get going with just the basic tutorials. And on the right here, you see Learning Connect. They have online in vivo training, right? And even if you go to YouTube, I mean, they've uploaded tons of videos on YouTube on how to do certain things in vivo. So you can really learn it yourself. I mean, it's not that hard to do self-learning with these softwares. Okay, so Moaza had a personal experience. She said she tried the NVivo and it's quite simple. So yeah, so I mean, I've used NVivo for a long time. Although I would say I haven't used it. I haven't explored all the functions, again, because some of the functions now are very much based on team-based studies. So they have a lot of functions where you can really collaborate, with other researchers. And of course, I haven't used those that much. I just finished a study recently where I did it with my PA, and we did some collaboration. So, But yeah, just go ahead and try them and see which one you like. So maybe just, I know this is a class in Vivo, in Vivo, but I will just show you the differences. So like, but I'll say that for a few minutes. Okay, so now this is the, have you all opened up in Vivo to this screen?
Yes.
Okay, so just now, these tutorials, it's hard online because I'm gonna have to keep checking in with you to make sure you're sort of caught up to where I am. And if I go too fast, you have to let me know. Okay, so just please feel free to let me know if I've gone too fast. Sorry, I'm just gonna show this quickly. All right. So this is in Vivo, and this is what your sort of home screen looks like. And as you can see on the left here, there's a list of projects. So if you've been working on several different projects, you can just straight away click to open the project. And then there's some other things down here, but we're working mostly in this part here, these four boxes here. So you can see there's a big button for a new project, and then in Vivo gives sample projects. This is really nice for tutorials because it shows you, they give you some examples of how to use the software. And so to start off, we're going to actually use one of these sample projects, and I'm just going to use that to show you the basic features. And then after that, we will work on our own projects together. We'll start a new project based on the analysis that we did in class. So we will import those 4 transcripts into the software, and then we will sort of do a little bit of analysis and so forth. Okay, so since we're going to start with a sample project, let's go here and click on this one here. You see this sample project multi-method. Okay, so let's just go ahead and click on that. All right. Now, in Vivo is, hold on, let me disable my Dropbox. One thing about in Vivo, it has a very funny kind of relationship. If you use Dropbox, any of you, it has a very kind of strange relationship with Dropbox. Sometimes when you're using in Vivo, Dropbox will do weird things. And they don't seem to like each other. So I'm not sure why. But so I like to disable my Dropbox when I use in Vivo. And then I'll open it again after that. Okay, so, and this is the screen you should see. Do you all have this screen on your computers? Okay, so to do these tutorials, I'm gonna really need you guys to sort of speak up, because I don't have my chat box on. And so like if I just want to make sure that I'm, that everyone's caught up. So if I ask you for like, are you on this screen, please just answer so that I know whether to stop or to go forward. Okay. So this is sorry, was there a question?
No, I was just saying okay to you.
Okay, thank you.
So to be responsive.
Yes, thank you for your response. Okay, so this is the basic interface of in Vivo. And so on the left, we have, these are all of our functions that we're going to be using. But I'm going to start with the toolbar on top. Okay, so you see the toolbar on top. We have file, home, import, etc. Okay, so this is where most of the on the left, actually, this toolbar on the left is where we store all of our information. So whether it's data files, or it's our coding, or it's our analysis, memos, our visual maps, all that stuff gets stored here on the left. Okay, and I'm going to cover those in a minute. But on I first want to go through the top, the toolbars here. So we have file. Okay, so the file, of course, this is like just basic project information. You can close the project, options, and all that. Okay, so that's not that important. So if you go to the home tab here, you'll see here there are some functions here at the top. Nothing that we're going to talk about much yet. We'll get to some of these in a little while. Okay, you can see this is mostly coding. Okay, so you see these buttons here: code, auto code, range code, uncode. Okay, this is mostly in relation to analysis, but we'll get to those in a minute. So import, if you go to the import tab, this is where we can import different types of data into NVivo. Okay, so we can import, as you see here, the nice thing about NVivo is that when you scroll over the button, it shows you a little window and explains what each of the functions is, which I really like. You know, because sometimes I forget, okay, what is project? Oh yeah, so it tells us what it is. Okay, so here you can merge elements from another NVivo project. They have this thing called NCapture, which is an add-on in your browser. You can bring in different types of content from the internet into NVivo. All right, files. Okay, so this will be like all of our interview transcripts, audio files, video files. Okay, so if you just click on that, you'll see you can import. Okay, so import files. So we'll be doing this in a little while. Okay, we'll be importing our files into NVivo. Okay, you can bring in survey data. Okay, so NVivo does have some capacity to do mixed method research. Okay, and you can bring in survey files. You can see if you click on it, you'll see there's Excel. There's text files, SurveyMonkey. All right, you can import those into NVivo, and you can do some basic descriptive analysis in NVivo with that. Okay, classifications is like SPSS. You can bring in SPSS files as well. So Excel, even SPSS files, you can bring into NVivo, import them into NVivo. All right, bibliography. For those of you that use like EndNote or Mendeley or Zotero, you can bring in that bibliographic references information using RIS files, okay, formats. So that one you can also import into NVivo. Notes and email, okay, you can import codebook from another project. If you have a codebook from another project you want to bring in, you can bring in. And then reports. Okay, so if you want to build reports using criteria from other projects, you can bring that in as well. So there is an enormous amount of different types of data we can bring into NVivo. Now, NVivo saves all your work in one file called an NVivo project file. It's an NVP file. Okay, so up here on the left, you see .nvp. So whatever you bring into NVivo, whatever you import into it, it's going to all get saved in that same file, which is nice because you don't have to open up different types of files. So you just open up your one NVivo file and everything's there. Okay, and so that's kind of convenient. All right. So that's import. Okay, now create. If we go to the create tab, the next one, this is where we do a lot of our analysis. Okay, so analysis here is create. So we can do, as you see the button on the left, we can make memos. Okay, so if you click on memo, you can, we'll do that in a little while, but you can make memos. Framework matrix is where you want to, if you want to run an analysis where you want to compare like codes for different participants, so you want to compare a certain code or a certain theme across your different study participants. You can create a matrix or a table that displays that comparison. Okay, so they're very useful, especially when you want to do comparative analysis, so especially when you start to do secondary analysis and you want to look for patterns in the data. So you want to see, well, how many participants, mention this theme. Okay, so you can do that using these framework matrices. Okay, you can code for relationships. So for example, if you want to, say you're doing a study where you're doing, maybe it's like a grounded theory study, and you want to show that, well, age, there's definitely a relationship between what the people are saying in the study between age and, work experience or something, right? And so as you're going through your data, you actually see this in the data, the qualitative data. Well, you can code that as a relationship, okay? Even if you see a causal relationship there, you can code it as such. All right, so NVivo allows us to code for relationships. Okay, so if you click on that, you can see here there's different ways. So for example, if you want to code, such and such contributes to such and such, right? So there's different ways, and you can create new relationship types. These are just some that NVivo gives us because these are the ones based on this sample study. But you can create your own relationships in NVivo as well. All right. So you can code for relationships that you see in the data. Okay, so that's very useful for, especially for theoretical kinds of study where you're trying to show relationships between your concepts. And then of course there's coding. Okay, so we'll definitely do some coding later. And then document. So you can create transcripts. You can do your transcribing straight into NVivo. Okay, so this one here, document, might be an example of such. Okay, you can do your transcribing right straight into in vivo as opposed to importing a transcript in vivo. Okay, so you can do both. Cases are useful, very useful as well. A case can be a person, a case can be a group, a case can be a school, a thing, an object, or whatever you're studying. So you can code for cases rather than just themes or content. Okay, so for example, like if I wanted to, we're doing our analysis of the girls from our study, the women from our study, and we want to include all the codes for Michelle in one place. We would make a case and call that Michelle, and then all her data or all her codes would be in there. Okay, and then later we can compare Michelle, and we can compare Michelle to Haru, and we can compare them that way. Okay, so cases allow us to code according to the object of the unit of analysis that we're using in our study. Okay, and then these classifications allow us to make new types of cases. So one case can be a person can be a case, or a location can be a case, or an organization can be a case. Okay, so we can create new types of cases using this case classification. Okay, and then there's different types of data sets. This one's static and dynamic. I'm not going to get into that tonight. It's a little bit advanced, but we can create different sets of data. So for example, like you want to include all the codes underneath a certain case, right? So you have codes related to the individuals there. You have codes related to different things within that case. You can create a set of data and include many different types of data in that set. Okay, so in vivo allows us to create these different sets of data. So it's not just codes, but you can actually combine codes into single sets. All right, and there's different types of sets. So in terms of analysis, there's a lot of different functions here that we can use to analyze our data. Again, these are tools. These are different types of tools that allow us to code and analyze in different ways. Okay, and then in the Explore tab, now please stop me if at any time you have questions. I'm going very fast, but I'm just sort of introducing the basic functions. Again, just to familiarize with what in vivo can kind of do, right? The capability of the software. But please, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. Okay. Now, Explore is, again, these are more analysis tools, but these are different types of analysis tools. These are looking at displaying the data, for example, in different ways. So if you look here at the queries, so we can run queries. Queries are where we actually do searches in the data. Okay, so if I want to search for certain words, or I want to search for certain phrases, or I want to search for certain codes, okay, I can go into my data set and search for different things. So they have different types of queries. There's a text search query, okay, where we look for, as it says here, looking for different phrases and words. There's a word frequency query. So how many times do our participants say certain things? Okay, we can search that way. And then we can search for different codes or sets of codes or intersections between codes. Okay, that's more of an advanced type of query. And then here you see queries here. It provides us with even more sophisticated ways of searching. Okay, coding queries, cross-tab queries, coding comparison queries. Okay, so there's a lot of capability in vivo in terms of how we actually query the data, how we search the data, and how we look for relationships in the data. Okay, so that's the query function. So there's a lot of different types of ways of searching through your data. Okay, now in vivo also provides us with the opportunity or the option to make charts and graphs. So we can display our findings in different ways. So for example, if I want to make a chart that shows how many times, what's the difference in a certain code or a theme, for example, between males and females in my study. All right, I can make a graph, an actual chart or a graph of that. Okay, so in vivo provides us with lots of different types of charts that we can make. Okay, so we can make charts according to our codes, according to our files, if we have cases, and so forth. And so that's, again, those are ways of displaying your data. Okay, so we can visually display our data in different ways. Maps, and we're going to do maps. We're going to try and create some maps later. Again, different ways of displaying the data. And they have 3 types of maps here. So mind map, you all know what a mind map is. So we can make mind maps freehand and in vivo. So this would be like a conceptual framework before the study, we can draw our conceptual framework in vivo. Okay, a project map shows the relationship between the different items in your study. So your different codes and themes and stuff, you can map them out. And then a concept map allows us to incorporate both project data as well as our ideas. Okay, so you can bring in and you can import your project data into your map, but you can also do freehand additional stuff. So I like concept maps. I like to use them as I'm analyzing throughout my study, because you can sort of show the evolution of your analysis using concept maps, and you can make little notes, and you can write little questions and all that. So we'll show you some examples of those as well. But maps is a very useful function. And then there's diagrams. You can do cluster analysis. Again, this is a much more sophisticated type of visual. And I've never used cluster analysis. This is a new function in vivo. Okay, so again, it depends on the kind of study that you're doing. Some studies that you're doing, you may not need any of these functions. Okay, here's another one: social network analysis. You can do sociograms. If you're doing that kind of study, you can show social network analysis as well. So some of these, again, are for more sophisticated studies, bigger studies, and so forth. But there's a lot of possibilities. So create and explore are where we do a lot of our analysis work. And then there's a tab called share. Okay, so you can create reports. As you see here, there's formatted reports, there's just textual reports. NVivo provides a whole slew of opportunities for making reports. So if you want to print out your audit trail for your study, you can do it using NVivo. Okay, and you can include it as an appendix in your thesis. All right, so that's very nice. All your analysis, all your coding, all the sources of data, even the transcripts, it can all be printed in a nice report, right? And then you can take it to the print shop and have it printed, and you can have a separate file or separate volume, really, to accompany your thesis as your audit trail that shows all the, content of your study. All right, so you can do that using the report function. All right, and these are formatted reports, and I'll show you an example in a minute. You can export your project, you can copy your project, you can even export your codebook, which I've done, which is really very nice. So we've been doing these codebooks, right, in class using Microsoft Word, but you can actually, from your coding that you do in NVivo, you can export that codebook into a Word file, and then you can put it into your thesis. All right, so you can export your codebook, which is really nice. All right, so NVivo allows a lot of, and this is reporting basically. These are reporting functions that you can use. Okay, and this last one, modules, we don't really need to get into. These are some of the other functions that it does. That they have a transcription service. Okay, so you can you have to pay for it, but you can send your audio files to QSR, the company, and they can transcribe for you. Okay, so just to mention that. Okay, so that's a quick rundown of the functions on the toolbar at the top, the toolbars at the top. Okay, these are all the core functions. Now on the left, are there any questions about any of those? I know I went fast, but anything that's really any burning questions? Okay, so now I just want to look at, now, if we go to the left, the toolbar on the left, now we're going to get into all the content of the actual study, okay? So you see here, there's the first one is called, this first one here, data, right? Now data, if you click on the little arrow here on the right, and it opens up into subfolders, and they have 3 here: files, file classification, and externals. So if you click again on the arrow for files, you'll see here, this is all the data that was used in this particular study. Okay, now this is a very big study on environmental something, I forgot, degradation or something. It took place in the US. And so they have a variety of different types of data. Okay, so as you can see here, these under the files, you have area and township. If you click on area and township, you'll see in the details window here, different types of data. So this is township information, Okay, and if you look on the left on this little icon, it tells you what type of data it is. So this is a data set. Okay, this is a data set. Competing water uses, marsh, harbor, pictures. Okay, so you look at the icons here and it shows that they're pictures. Okay, so you can go ahead and double click on any of these. And what's going to happen is the file will open in the window on the right. Okay. And so this is just some sort of data set. Has something about tax values and parcel size, population. Okay, so this is some kind of data set that they imported about this particular location. Okay. If you click on the next one, competing water uses, this is a picture. So this is photographic data. Okay, this will also open. Now, NVivo allows you can import photographs like this, and then you can analyze the photograph using field notes. So what they did here was they highlighted this particular section of the photograph, right? And you can just do it freehand like that. And then what they did was they wrote notes here. These would be basically field notes, observation notes really, about the picture. Okay, so you see here, this portion of the picture that's highlighted. Okay, so if you click on this one box, it shows you which portion of the picture is highlighted, and then it shows you the note, the corresponding note. Okay, so they're observing here the homes, right? And they're making some notes about the homes. Okay, if you click on the 2, it shows this part has been highlighted, and they're talking about the commercial fishing boats. Okay, so you can highlight whatever part of the picture you want to highlight, and then write notes on that picture. This is called observation. This is observation notes. Okay, so this is like doing observation, right? And these are field notes, and this is data. And you see that's why this data here is highlighted, because this data was coded. Okay, when it's yellow highlighted like this, that means it was coded. Okay, so they coded this data. All right. Now, if you look at the top here, you'll notice that I have both of these data files open at the same time. Okay, and that's one of the nice things about NVivo is that you can have multiple data files open at the same time, and you can go back and forth between them. So maybe you have 2 or 3 transcripts open at the same time. You can go and do your constant comparative method. You can do it literally as you go along in NVivo by switching back and forth between your files. Okay, so it's very nice. That is one of the very nice features about qualitative data analysis software, is that you can it makes it very easy to do constant comparative method. And I like to play around with the windows. You can resize them, make more room for yourself. Okay, you can even collapse, like up here on the left, you can even collapse this bar on the left. If you really want to do serious analysis and make a lot of room for yourself, you can play with the window sizes and so forth. Okay, so that's another thing. All right, so this is area and township. Now, to close these, you just go ahead to the tab at the top here and just click on the X, and the file will close. All right. So now that's area and township data, okay? It's some kind of geographic data or something. The next one here, as you see on the left, is interviews. Now, this is something that we're more familiar with. These are interviews, okay? Now, you see a long list of names. So these are interviews. And in terms of the columns here, the information that they provide, you'll see the name. Okay, so this is the name of the interviewee, the participant, the respondent. Okay, and then you have codes and references. When it was modified, who modified it, and then its classification. So these are all interviews. So the classification is interview. Okay, modified by is the name of the researcher. Okay, this is the date it was modified, and then codes and references. So in Helen's interview here, okay, can anybody, and just to see how much you've been following along, can anybody tell me what type of file this is?
Audio.
Yes, and how did you know that?
The speaker.
Yeah, icon.
The speaker icon.
Right.
Icon.
So a little icon that says audio. So that's what we know it's an audio file. Okay. So if I go ahead and look at Helen, we see from Helen's interview here, there's been 14 codes used 50 times. Okay. So the researchers they coded Helen's data with 14 different codes with 50 different references, meaning 50 times that they use those codes. Okay. And if we go ahead and double click on Helen, just double click on the file name. All right, Helen's going to open up. Okay, and this is the audio file. Now you notice that as I clicked on it at the top, the audio toolbar opened. Okay, the audio toolbar. Now, automatically all these new functions come up. Okay, so you see here these functions at the top: stop, play, there's volume, there's speed, okay, there's loop. All right, so you can go ahead and you can see what they did here was this is not a transcription of the audio file. This is just, again, these are just notes. These are like they're sort of like field notes, where the researchers are just making notes, summarizing basically certain things that Helen says that are important to the study. Okay, again, it's very short. It's only 2 minutes and 41 seconds, right? And it's just to sort of give us an idea of how you can make notes, or you could transcribe. So Helen, this could have been a transcription. They could have transcribed verbatim what she said here, but they didn't. They just made field notes. Okay, so you can go up and in Vivo, if you press play. Oh, you can't hear. It's not very loud. Yeah. Yeah, it's not very loud. I don't know why. So anyway, when you press play, you can hear back, and you can do your transcribing right into NVivo. Okay, it's very nice. They have a transcribing function here. If you look at the top here, and you see this play button, okay, which is normal play. Then they have you can synchronize the media with the transcript. As you play the media, the two stay in sync. And then there's transcribe. So when you start to play the media, a blank entry down here is made, and then you can just go ahead and write and transcribe what you hear. You can pause it, you can write, you can continue, press play, continue, listen, pause it, write. Okay, so you do the transcribing right in NVivo, right? And so that's an option as well. Okay, and then here you have some other options at the top here. You can make highlights, you can make it, you can zoom in, you can make links. I'll show you links later. Okay, you can do coding, this can be coded, okay, and stuff like that. Okay, so this is what an audio file looks like. All right, so a lot of options with the audio files. So this next one down here, Barbara, is a document, as you can see here. So if we double click on Barbara, what's gonna pop up is our transcript. Okay, so this is what a transcript looks like in NVivo, and this is Barbara's transcript. Okay, you can see here. Looks like a pretty straightforward transcript. Okay, and so this is where all the coding is done and so forth. Okay, so this is just a transcript. All right, you see most of these files are transcripts. Okay, and there's even some video files down here. So if you look at the bottom two, Ken and Betty and Paul, if you look at the little icon, these are video files. So these are videos that have been imported into NVivo. Okay, and it works very much like the audio file. When you double click on it, the video tab opens up at the top, and you can go ahead and play the video.
That's where I always grew up.
You can control the volume here. You can control the speed. You know, you can slow it down. Especially if you're doing transcribing, it helps to slow it down so you can hear.
And this area, this particular spot in particular, yeah, it's a nice spot. It's easy.
Okay, so you can again do your either transcribing, or you can just make field notes here about the interview. All right, so whether it's a video file or an audio file, both can be brought into NVivo. Okay. All right, so you can bring in the audio or video file, then you can do the transcribing right in NVivo if you want. All right, so it gives us those options. Okay, so this is the interview folder, and as you can see, they include all these different types of files in the interviews. You can have separate folders for each. Like you can have a folder just for videos, you can have a folder just for audio files, and a folder for transcripts. It's up to you. So if you go on the left here, you can make new folders. So for example, like under the file, if you right click on this file tab, you see a menu opens up and it says new folder. So for example, if I want to make a new folder, right, I would just click on that new folder. Okay, so I right click on files, I click on new folder, then I could write a new folder name, audio files. If I want, I can give it a description here. I don't have to. If I click OK, now I have a new folder here called audio files. So you can make as many folders as you want. You can arrange it as however you want. Okay, NVivo gives us that freedom to do that. All right. Now we have literature. So here is where you can bring in all your literature for your study, all your articles. Okay. Here they only have one. They have one here, but for some reason, I think this is a mistake. Oh, wait a minute. It disappeared. On here. Under social media, if you scroll down a little bit and click on the arrow here, you see under social media, there's linked online resources. If you click on that, you'll see here, they have a lot of PDF files. All right, so if you look on the left, PDF, these are PDF files. They put them under here, linked online resources. These are not necessarily journal articles. These are, as you can see by the title, these are like news articles, they're from the web, right, etc. So they're mostly from online sources, but they are PDF format. So in the literature file here, they have just one PDF. So if you open up, if you double click on that, you'll see the PDF opens. Okay, and it looks exactly like it does in your PDF Adobe Acrobat software, right? But what's really nice is that here you can do all your coding. You can even code your literature. So, oh, you know what? This is really related to my study. I want to code this. I want to save this somewhere. So I can go ahead and then I can code that bit of data. And I can make files in here. I can make files for my literature review. So under my literature review, I can write topics, right? So under literature, this literature folder, I can have subfolders of all my topics related to my study. And so you can organize your literature review using NVivo. And what's really nice is that when you have your data and your literature in the same place, you can link the two together. And I can show how you do that later. All right. Yeah.
Meaning that this more or less like having Mendeley as well in your NVivo, is it?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. It's very handy.
Thank you, Prof.
It's very nice because it just because this happens a lot when you're doing analysis, you're going through data, things resonate. What she just said is very much related to this article I just read, and then you go and search in the article, you want to find it, and and so this topic in this article, I can use this as a code for my data. So you can have it all open at the same time, and you can make links between them. Okay, so for example, like here, if I wanted to link this to some code of mine, I can do that. Okay, and we can do it together very quickly. If you just highlight this bit of text in the article and you right click and you scroll down here in your menu, there's something called a link. You see the links option there? Okay. Now you see on the right, there's something called a see also link. Okay, so click on that new see also link. All right. And this box is going to open up. Okay, so what it's saying here is that it's telling me I'm going to link this from this selected text that I just highlighted. I'm going to link it to something in my study. Okay, now it gives me the option of what I want to link it to. So I'm going to link it to an existing item. All right, because I want to link it to a code, right? Remember I just mentioned to you I can link it to a code. So I'm going to link it to a code. So I'm going to put existing item in here, and then I'm going to select. Okay, now NVivo will open up and it'll give me all the data in my study to choose from. So I'm going to go to my codes and I'm going to click on codes and see these are all the codes that they have in this study. So just for exercise purposes, I'm going to link that text that I just highlighted to a code under, let's say, natural environment. I'm going to link it to this code called landscape. Okay, so I highlight landscape and I click OK. All right. And then I click OK again. And now it has been coded. Okay. So it's going to show in this see what's called a see also link. All right. And you'll see that down here. See also link. They have a lot of they have a lot of these links in this project because it's a very big project. Now, if we were to double click on that see also link, okay. So it's linking now to, that was Darvia. Okay. So here is the link here. This one that's highlighted on the left, analyzing estuary and natural environment. All right. Okay, and so this is the code for landscape. Okay, so what it's done is that I've highlighted it and I've shown the link here, and then it's opened up in the code here, landscape. It's going to link me there. So now I can go through my code landscape and I can find what is relevant. All right, what is relevant? Okay. So I've linked the two. You can also, so you can link, you can do that throughout your study. Or you can do it the other way. You can from the code, you can link it to the article or the text of the article. So usually we would do it the other way, but you can do it this way as well. All right. So I know I'm going a little fast. That's a little bit fast. But what it is see, once this has been coded as a see also link, it shows up here, and then there is a highlight. It's highlighted in a different color. Actually, it's blue. Okay. And you can go ahead and close those. All right, so let me just backtrack. I know I'm going kind of fast. We'll do that. We'll do a more basic version of that in a little while. All right, so let's go back to our, where were we? Literature. Okay, so literature. And then there's news articles. Okay, so if you want to bring a news article, they brought in news articles to this study. These are also PDF files. Social media. Okay, they have Twitter feeds here, a data set, which is a Twitter feed. All right, so you can even import Twitter feeds if you're analyzing social media. Okay, if you double click on that. Okay, so here's the Twitter feed, and they've actually analyzed the tweet, the tweets in this study. All right, this has all been analyzed. That's why it's highlighted in yellow. All right, so just want to show you that. All right, and then even survey data. Okay, so again, this is another database file of survey data. All right, so this is the survey data. And again, these are open-ended questions that they've analyzed. All right. So this is really nice if you're doing content analysis, right? So a lot of students, they do content analysis where they're coding like very short, brief sets of data like this, and they want to, they want to compute the frequency of these different responses, right? But it's not long data. It's just short sort of responses. Okay, so you can code those as well. All right, so survey data you can bring in to your Vivo. And that's mostly it for the data. There's some other things here we won't get into tonight. File classifications, externals. Externals is just anything that cannot be imported in file form. You can just write, you can freely write the text, and then you can just bring it into externals. Okay, that's just in case you can't import whatever it is that you want to bring in. Okay. And so that's the data. So all your data that you're going to use in your study is going to be stored here in this data section. Okay, data section, right? And so this is, again, this is a sample study, and they've got lots of different types of data to show. And so that's what we're looking at here. All right. So we can go ahead and close that, and we can move on down to the organize tab here with coding. So this is where all of our analysis takes place. Okay, so the first one we have here is coding. Okay, so if you open up the arrow for coding, you'll see here, there's 4 different folders. One is codes, one is called sentiment, one is relationships and relationship types. So if you click on the codes folder, These are basically their codes from their study, okay? Now, again, Vivo is not going to analyze anything for you. It's not even going to make any themes for you, okay? These are codes and their subcodes and their subcodes and their subcodes, okay? This is their coding hierarchy in the study, all right? So if you expand on all these, you'll see there's different levels of codes. Now, which one of these are themes? Which ones are categories? That is up to the researcher. This is just providing us a way of organizing the codes, all right? So maybe, you know, attitude is some sort of theme. Maybe it's some sort of category. We don't really know. That's up to the researchers. Okay, but NVivo gives us a way of organizing all the codes in a way, however we want, based on how we see the data. Okay, and that's what they've done here. So there's not a place for themes. There's not a place for categories. There's just coding hierarchies. Okay, now what I like to do in my studies is I like to actually start by creating codes for each research question. So I'll have, you know, research question 1 as a main code, research question 2 as a main code, and then I'll build my codes underneath each of those, so I can see, so I can sort of separate out my data according to research question. Okay, so it's sort of a way of starting with structural coding. You structure the study according to research question. So I like to do mine that way. They didn't do it in theirs, but that's just the way I like to do it. So these are the codes, and on any of these codes where you see any content, like for example, references, like for this one, negative. Okay, so this is negative attitude. Okay, the code here is negative attitude. So if we double click on negative, it's going to open up, the code is going to open up. Okay, what's going to show is, it's going to show all the data that's been coded as negative attitude. All right, and as you can see, again, this is a very big study, a lot of data. Okay, so these are all the different coded excerpts from different sources. Okay, so if you look here, you'll see there's a link, right? And this is one of the really nice things I like about these software programs is that, you know, because after you've done a lot of coding, you lose track of where you put everything. So for example, like this data here, if I wanted to go back and find out, well, where in the interview did Barbara say this? Okay, because we can see here, it's from Barbara's interview. All right, so if you see the link at the top here, files, interviews Barbara, it's actually a hyperlink. So if you click on that hyperlink, it opens up to Barbara's interview. And it opens up to the very spot where this data was coded. So now I can see the context of what Barbara was talking about. Oh, okay, she was answering this question about insight, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's what's really nice about doing your coding in the software, is that you can always refer back to the source. So like down here, you see this is also interview Betty and Paul, interview from Charles, interview with Helen, interview with Ken. So this is all interview data, but there's other types of data in here as well. News article, okay? So you see on my screen here, this data is from this news article. So if I click on the link, it's going to open up to that news article. Ah, here's the news article, and here's the data that was coded. Okay, there's a lot of data here. All right, and so I can keep this open along with Barbara's transcript. Okay, so I go back to my code. All right, so I see this is triangulation. Okay, and this is where we can actually see triangulation. We see that there's interview data. There's interview data from different participants, Barbara, Thomas, all these people. There's also data from this news article. So document analysis is in there. Okay, and if we scroll down some more, we'll see, hey, social media. Look, they even have social media data in here, all coded under negative attitude. Okay, so this finding, this code, negative attitude, encompasses multiple forms of data. So there's evidence here of triangulation, all right? And this is just one code. This is not even a theme yet, right? This is just one code, all right? So you can see here, okay? So that's the nice thing about the software, is that it provides us with a way of really displaying triangulation. And we know, we can see from our own coding, we can go back and look. When we open up these codes, we can see to what extent is our data diversified? You know, is it all coming from the same participant? Is it coming from different participants? Is it coming from different sources? Okay. And one of the ways NVivo helps us to see that is on the right here. You'll see there's another toolbar here, or a set of tabs rather. Now this is the references display. There's different ways of displaying these codes though. All right, so if I click on summary on the right here, it's going to summarize the sources of the code. Okay, so you can see 3 references or 3 coded excerpts from Barbara's interview, 2 from Betty and Paul's interview, 79 references from the social media file, 3 from the news articles. Wow, 389 from the survey responses. So you see there's a lot of triangulation for this code, right? A lot of triangulation. Look at the different sources of data, right? And so this is a nice way of showing this, is using this summary tab. Okay, you can even show the text. There's a text, so it shows the different articles and then each of the data under each source. Okay, if you click on the text tab here. All right, so you can look at the data according to respondent, according to source. Right, and there's different ones, PDF and audio, and okay, so there's different ways of showing the coded data. All right, so once we begin coding, we've got data in our codes, a lot of options in terms of how we look at that data. So you look at this one on economy. This is a huge code, right? And it has multiple subcodes. But if I click on economy itself, the code economy, this is a massive code, 486 references. So this is a major theme in this study is economy. Okay, you can see, right? So here's economy, opened up. And you can see the amount of data here, massive amount of data. If you click on summary, you can see the summary of all the different sources of the data for economy. All right, this is a really big code. Okay, and if you scroll down, you can see all the data. So this is a really big study. Okay, I think this study has like 10 researchers involved or something. It's a very big study. Okay, I've been going very fast. So are there any questions? Anyone want to stop me? Can I proceed?
I just wanted to ask because I noticed that at the code, at the codes part, there was a column with color palette, which I have never actually noticed before.
Yep.
How does the colors thing work? Does it actually help us to?
This is one of the things this is one of my pet peeves about NVivo is I don't like the way they use colors because I don't really, all honesty, I've never used colors in NVivo either. It's not really clear to me how you use them. In Max QDA, what I really like is they use colors very efficiently, very effectively actually. They actually show what do you call it? Like each time you code a colored bracket appears for that code, and then they give the name of the code next to it. So the way they display their coding, I think, is much more effective than NVivo. NVivo has coding stripes, which I don't know if you've used NVivo, maybe you're aware of. But like, for example, if you look on this toolbar here, they have this button called coding stripes. So if you click on this coding stripes button, you can show color, color-based coding stripes. So if you click on that coding stripes, I clicked on the all. Uh-oh.
Prof.
Something just happened to my computer. I don't know what happened. It just decided to go berserk. Hold on a second, yeah?
Sure.
I really apologize. I don't know what happened. Wow. I can't do anything on my computer.
You need to restart your computer, bro.
I think I do actually. Can you guys give me like 2 minutes and I'll
Sure. Yeah, bro, no
I'll
problem.
rejoin. I'll rejoin. In the meantime, you guys can play a little bit with what we've covered so far. Go ahead and play around.
All right. Okay.
All right, give me a second. Yeah, sorry.